Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be covering the 10 vital points that you're going to have to memorize. Now, when I say vital points, I'm not talking about chi knockout points or things that are going to cause immediate death or, the 5-step punch where they take 5 steps and fall over dead. I'm not talking about anything magic like that. What we're talking about is real points that can take away an attacker's will or ability to fight. Remember that those are the two critical things when we're trying to get someone to stop bothering us, stop attacking us, stop injuring us. We want to take away their will, their desire to hurt us or to hold on to us, or their ability, their physical capability of continuing the threat, okay? So Mr. Joshua's here. I'm going to use him kind of as a little punching dummy, and I do apologize, Mr. Joshua. I'll try not to kill him today. But we're going to talk about the 10 vital points here. We're going to start up in the head. We're just going to work our way down the body, all right? So in the head, we've got several vital points. The very first one is the eyeballs. Now, if I just punch you in the eye, you've got a lot of bone that surrounds that that's designed to protect your eye, but it can cause you to close that eye and it can cause that to swell up, making it difficult for you to see. However, if I were to take fingers or thumbs and press into those eyes, I can do a lot of damage and permanently impair your vision or even just temporarily impair your vision so that you can't continue to attack me, okay? So that's vital point number one, is the eyeballs. We generally attack those with thumbs, with strikes of some kind, okay? The second vital point on the head that we're going to talk about today is actually on the back of the head. So Mr. Joshua, if you turn and face this direction, thank you. When we're looking at the back of the head, we want to look at about where the hairline stops here, okay? That's where your C1, C2 vertebrae are, and that's what we're attacking. Basically, the attachment point between the brain and your brain stem right here is what we're attacking. When we hit this here with any kind of a strike, what it does is cause the skull to whip back, okay, and cause the brain to kind of shake back and forth. It can also do damage to the spine, causing either temporary or permanent inability to move, all right? So this is a strike point right here on the back of the neck. All right, Mr. Joshua, if you turn and face me. Sure. So point number 2 is going to be the base of the skull. Point number 3 is on the side of the neck. The neck is a very weak point. It's got a lot of places that we can just strike, okay? So point number 3 is going to be your carotid artery. There's also a bunch of nerves that run right up in here, so if we can strike that with power, okay, we can do a lot of damage. Sometimes you can actually knock people out by hitting them in the side of the neck because it kind of creates a little bit of a shock wave in the carotid artery, causing an overpressure in the brain, which causes the brain to shut off and say, hey, I'm done for right now, okay? Now, this is, unless you're closing those carotid arteries for a long period of time, like a choke of some kind, you're not going to do a whole lot of permanent damage here, but it can provide enough shock to get them to back away from you. Okay, so far we've got eyes, that's 1, the back of the skull is 2, the carotid artery and the associated nerves on the side of the neck there are number 3. Number 4 is going to be your trachea. Now this is, when we talk about vital points, okay, this is a vital point. This is one that's going to do some real damage. If you crush that trachea, they're going to need to go to the hospital, okay? So you want to be really careful about attacking this area. But if you can push on that area, okay, it's very uncomfortable, right? Even with that little bit of pressure, you can also strike to that area with a lot of different body parts, okay? So that's your 4th vital point, is the trachea. Now, moving on down the body, we're going to go to the collarbone here, the clavicle. Now, the collarbone runs from your shoulder all the way in towards your neck here and into the chest. It's a very short bone, but it doesn't have a lot of support in the middle, and it's incredibly painful if it breaks. It also makes it very difficult to use the arm on the attached side. So if I were to strike downward with about 25 pounds of pressure in the middle of that clavicle, it would break and give me the opportunity to escape while he's hopefully unhappy. All right, so that's your 5th point. Now, moving down the body, the next point is going to be our solar plexus, okay? What we're striking here is the xiphoid process, which is a little bit of a cartilage down at the very bottom of the sternum. When you strike this, you want to strike up and in. You want to make sure that you're using something that's going to get in between the ribs here, because the ribs come down at an angle. If I strike across with something big like this, it may not be as effective as striking with something a little bit smaller that's going to get in between those ribs. I can use a knee, a fist, the point of an elbow, a headbutt. There's a lot of different ways that I can strike that point. All right, now from here we've got a couple of other points that we want to look at. Right behind and below the xiphoid process here, the diaphragm, we're looking at kidneys, okay? So our kidneys are actually, I'm going to rotate you around, Mr. Joshua. Our kidneys actually sit kind of right here and right here on either side of the spine, but inside and just below the rib cage here. So if I were to turn him around and be able to strike, boom, into the soft tissue just below his rib cage, between his rib cage and his hip, I could hit one of those kidneys. They call this a kidney shot. It's terrible. It's incredibly painful. It can make you hurt for several days, so you have to be really careful with this when you're training with your partners, all right? So there's one on either side that you can strike. Now, another point that we can strike is the liver. So the liver sits on the right side of your body, just below the stomach. It sits just around where your floating ribs are. So if I can strike into that liver, up and in, that's another incredibly painful place to strike, which can temporarily debilitate somebody, okay? So that's another strike point. Okay, moving on down, the groin. Everybody knows about this, and we all laugh about it, but it can be really, really useful. From here, if he's grabbing onto me or something, driving a knee or a ridge hand or something like that up into that groin is pretty effective. Now, there are some other terrible things that you can do to that, like grabbing and twisting, okay? And it doesn't just work on guys. It's just a sensitive area for everyone, regardless of who you are. So being able to strike into that area or push into that area is really, really effective, okay? All right, moving on down from our groin, we're gonna go down to our knees. Now, there's other smaller points that you can strike even lower on the foot, like stomping on the top of the foot and stuff like that. But the knees keep you up and able to move. If you can damage one of the knees, it makes it really hard for the bad guy to attack you. A couple of different angles you can attack this from. You can go straight forward so that it hyperextends the knee with a kick of some kind, okay? You can attack the sides, either the outside or the inside of the knee, all right? Or if they happen to be turned away from you, you get them to spin around and you need to drop them to the ground for some reason, you can attack the back of the knee and push them down to the ground, okay? So, 10 vital strike points. 1, eyeballs. 2, base of the skull. 3 is going to be your carotid artery. 4, looking at your trachea here. 5 is going to be your collarbone, all right? 6, right here, your diaphragm, your xiphoid process here. 7 is going to be your liver. 8 is your kidneys, back here, striking into these areas. 9 is the groin, and 10 is the knees. All right, guys, make sure you have those memorized. Hopefully you never have to use this information, but if you do, it's going to be really helpful to have all of those memorized and know that you can go to those points no matter what position you're in.